An indication of how busy everyone is during Combine Week, you are eating on the go, and that includes Ryan Clark, ESPN NFL Analyst, popcorn in hand. He's got a show in like 10 minutes, but so gracious to take some time with us to talk about the Indianapolis Colts and this upcoming 2022 NFL Draft. Appreciate you taking time.
Oh, no, I'm excited. You know, this is my first time actually being in the building, you know, for the Combine, and so that's exciting, and obviously you got a lot of work to do covering the Colts.
Well, appreciate that, and when you look at this class in particular, the Colts are picking in the second round, and the second round is an area that they've had success in drafting. When you look at Michael Pittman Jr., Jonathan Taylor, previous to that, Darius Leonard, Braden Smith, where is the depth in this 2022 draft that we're going to see on display here at the Combine where the Colts might be able to get immediate impact players in the second round?
You know, it's funny that you mentioned Pittman because the depth is in the wide receiver group. It is also top heavy. There are going to be some great guys at the top, the Olaves, the Garrett Wilsons, but also as you get deeper into the draft, you're going to be able to find quality players on the outside, which is what the Colts need. If you go back to last year, obviously Pittman did well at the wide receiver position, but there was no number two, and I think many people will argue that he's not a one. And when you look at Carson's season, it was, where was his go-to guy? Where could he always find that play when he needed it? And I felt like he couldn't because they didn't necessarily have the skill outside. Jonathan Taylor is one of the best running backs in the league. The running game was the best last year, but they need to prepare out there, and this is a great draft to do it.
You mentioned Carson Wentz. We heard from head coach Frank Reich and general manager Gus Bradley earlier this week. From what you heard, their comments, and also the conversations ongoing across the league, what do you think is the likely outcome for Carson Wentz?
So here's the hard thing about Carson Wentz. When you hear Chris Ballard say some of the things he says, and also his tone when saying them, you can see a guy that's disappointed. You can see a guy that thought that he'd get more out of Carson Wentz. And if you're the Indianapolis Colts, you felt a quarterback away since Andrew Luck retired. But there's no way that he can erase the memory, and I know it's not this simple, but erase the memory of the ghost of Phillip Rivers taking the Buffalo Bills to the brink, and then Carson Wentz losing to the Jacksonville Jaguars in Week 18 last year. And so to me, I think he wants to deal him. Frank Reich obviously came out in support of him again, but Carson Wentz is going to count $15 million against the cap. I don't know if anybody takes that in the trade from the Indianapolis Colts. And the thing that you have to think about if you're the Colts is, who do I get that's better than Carson Wentz? And so if you just get rid of him and you're just expecting anything to come in to be better, I think that's a really hard case to make for the Colts. And if you don't get a guy like Mitchell Trubisky, then maybe you're stuck out. When
you look at the rising talent, in particular at the quarterback position across the AFC, how close are the Indianapolis Colts to being competitive?
They're close, but the Indianapolis Colts aren't a Super Bowl team. The Indianapolis Colts do need to add depth outside at the corner position. Obviously, Kenny Moore is an absolute stud. You were hurt at safety last year, but you need to get that top-notch corner, that lockdown type guy, which is hard to do when you don't have a first-round draft pick. Darius Leonard, freaking stud, right? One of the best linebackers in the world, and defensively you can rush. But offensively was where they hurt. If Jonathan Taylor wasn't having one of those games where he was constantly moving the ball, getting those big plays, it was sometimes difficult for the Indianapolis Colts to score. So I still feel like they're on the outside looking in, especially when you think of Kansas City Chiefs, Cincinnati Bengals, Buffalo Bills, even the Baltimore Ravens when Lamar Jackson is healthy. But what that tells me is this: you got to have a guy at quarterback. And the Tennessee Titans are finding that out more than anyone. You have a Derrick Henry, you have a great defense, but at quarterback you have Ryan Tannehill, and you lose to the Cincinnati Bengals because he throws 3 interceptions.
You named a couple of the Pro Bowl guys that the Colts have defensively. You're a defensive guy. With the addition of Gus Bradley, what steps do you anticipate this team taking on the defensive side of the football? Because you do have a lot of strong foundation there.
Well, the one thing Gus Bradley tries to guard against in that single high safety defense, that cover 3 type defense, is deep balls, right? He tries to make you throw the football in front of him, make teams earn the touchdowns, and that's what you want to do, especially when you have the running game that the Indianapolis Colts have. This team can be about pounding the football offensively, stopping the big play, and creating turnovers, and that's a winning football formula if you have a quarterback that can make plays in critical moments. And so I think Gus Bradley is a great addition. He's a veteran coach. He's been a head coach before. You add that to the mix, and maybe you get an effect like we saw Dan Quinn with the Dallas Cowboys this year.
You mentioned your first time here in the building, Lucas Oil Stadium, to watch the Combine. Activity about to get underway. What are you looking forward to most?
You know what? I think the thing that I like the most is to see excellent athletes, elite level athletes, compete in the atmosphere that's the same, in a like atmosphere, right? A guy can go to Pro Day at Arkansas and run 4.3, and the guys at LSU that runs 4.4, but you don't get to see it at the same time. It's not that anticipation of these high-level players all in one place. And so I'm just excited about them competing. No matter what it is, I want to see guys go out there and get an opportunity to catch their dreams, and that's what this signifies the start of.
Well, I'm not going to keep you any longer from getting onto that stage, and certainly not going to keep you more from that popcorn. Appreciate you, Ryan Clark.
Yes,
Thanks
man.
so
Thank
much.
you so much.